Good morning, everybody, to this third and final session of the DominoE webinar series um, that is mainly dealing with business opportunities for SMEs in the Earth observation sector. Before we go into the webinar as such, a very brief reminder what DominoE is all about. DominoE is a European Commission funded initiative project that basically tries to bring together or brings together leading partners from industry, from research, but also SMEs to develop a modular federated ground segment architecture for Earth observation. The goal of this project is very much to create a flexible system where interoperable and reusable components, so dominoes, can be developed independently one from another, and they are then deployed on the cloud or on premises, and they're tailored. Each of these dominoes is also tailored to very specific needs of both single and multi-mission Earth observation operations. So overall, the idea is very much to make Earth observation systems more efficient, more scalable, and also more business friendly. And that's what we will talk quite a lot today. And it will also open the doors for new players that aim to contribute to the value chain in Earth observation. This is the third out of 3 sessions for this webinar. Just a brief reminder, in the first session, we basically started with a sort of a history and the evolution of Earth observation to onboard everybody, also discussing the pain points in the current tasking and in the current image acquisition loop. And then we also discussed the Domino architecture. So if you're interested in rewatching also the Domino framework, the Domino architecture as such, there is the recording online of this very session on YouTube, and it's also accessible on our website. In the webinar number or session number 2, that was last week on Tuesday, we discussed mainly the developing part of dominoes within the Domino architecture. What we did is we reintroduced the concept of the dominoes, but then also merely looked at them as real examples. We had colleagues from the DominoE project presenting the dominoes that they are actually developing. So we were discussing the SCRMS, the Satellite Communication and Resource Management service. We were talking about a virtual assistant service, and we were talking about the coverage service. And each of them are basically dominoes that are implemented in the context of the Domino architecture, and that are also going to be used. We have some representatives of these developers with us today also, and today we will look very much at the Domino ecosystem as a business ecosystem with a lot of business opportunities that are coming up for SMEs and players in the Earth observation sector. Now, before we start with our today's session, let me just give you a brief housekeeping indications. As you know, it's a webinar series, so always feel free to raise your questions. You can either ask them in the chat, but also just raise your hand, and then we will call you once that the presentations are over. And you can ask your question also in live. During the presentations, please keep your microphones muted so that everybody can present peacefully. And then last but not least, this session is going to be recorded for the same reason that also the first two sessions have been recorded. So you and also other people can rewatch these sessions on YouTube and on the DominoE website afterwards. All right. So I think with the housekeeping done, I would now start with today's session. We got a lot of interesting topics to discuss. We will start basically with a presentation from Amaya Tencial-Yepes from GMV about business models and opportunities in the earth observation market. We will then have a roundtable discussion that is hosted and moderated by Thomas, but also with guests from Capgemini, from Stefan Derian, with Daniel Novak from Airbus, and with Gregor Straversky from ITTI. And we will then close basically with a presentation from Jean-François Vinuesa from Airbus again, who is trying to announce on how you can actually participate in the DominoE or in the Domino architecture and come up with your own idea. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. I will now hand over to Amaya. Yeah, please introduce yourself once again, and then I'm happy to hear your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you all of you for the interest in this webinar, in the interest of Domino. So my name is Amaya Tencia. I am from GMV. We are a company that we mostly provide ground segment solutions to EO constellations and develop added value services. So we are quite involved in the needs of this, in the needs and the solutions provided by DominoE. And so I'm going to talk to you today about which are the possibilities for and the business opportunities that may be open to SMEs by the adoption of the Domino ecosystem and the adoption of the Domino idea. So let's start with this. So DominoE is supporting the market needs in many ways, provided the current situation in which there are hundreds of satellites of Earth observation orbiting around 1,200 approximately, and all of them providing the massive amount of data with different, making use of different payloads with different vision of Earth observations of the Earth with this instrument. It is necessary to be able to put all this information in common, to federate, to make use of all of this vast amount of data in order to provide added value services, more and more complex, based on data fusion, based on different perspectives, and providing also access to data in order to develop AI-driven services and to exploit all of them. So there is a number of needs that are associated to this multi-mission, multi-constellation, and federated universe for exploiting data and providing these added value services, starting with operational needs for enabling the multi-mission coordination and ensuring timely acquisition, timely image acquisition and delivery of this image. So, but very, very close to this multi-mission coordination and multi-mission ecosystem is the need to have solutions that are cost effective and as well scalable, because if it is high, the number of Earth observation missions, it is expected to be more and more increasing in the number. So providing this federated multi-mission in a cost-effective way is a very important aspect in order to guarantee to the successful access to these all EO assets. Another important market needs is the current shift that we are living instead of selling data, instead of providing raw data, to provide added value services and high-level data services based on processing, AI processing solutions. So this shift that will provide to the final users this intelligent service instead of raw data requires as well of many aspects in terms of infrastructure, in terms of interfaces, in terms of scalability, and in terms of data access. As well, another important aspect that Domino is dealing with is to facilitate the data access to different EO constellation and to different systems in a federated way, in order to provide this concept that we call the democratization of the data, that it is to provide open and open access, but at the same time being compliant with IPRs, being compliant with security regulations and regulatory needs, and also the access to these sources of data must be provided in an efficient way, so that we can exploit the data directly in the places where they are, instead of moving and duplicating this data in different platforms. And another important aspect in which Domino is providing or trying to provide a solution is to move or to provide new business models based on business to business or business to government approach, and provide access and facilitate the access of SMEs to this new market, B2B or B2G. So next, please. Okay, so the insights of the DominoE project, just in a nutshell, that will be explained later by my colleague Jeff. But DominoE, in a nutshell, is a federated, standardized, and modular EU architecture. This will, for sure, enhance the collaboration between different sectors, between different constellations, and the concept of standardization will lower the entry market to the entry to market for the SMEs. DominoE is quite focused in dealing with new business models, and standardization aspects, and commercialization strategy. This will have an impact, or is expected to have an impact, in the way the different stakeholders in Earth observation collaborate, and also a high impact in the way the SMEs may enter to this new market, by making use of this federation, interoperability, and modular architecture solution, which are expected to be the Domino users, the market. Domino is aimed to provide to the end users, that may be institutional, governmental, or commercial market, but as well to fully involve as users large system integrators and the SMEs, that is the industry, to provide modules and to provide high added value services through this new ecosystem, this new federated ecosystem. Next, please. So which are the benefits of this federation and interoperability, and to share the infrastructure in the EO ecosystem? Firstly, I have already mentioned, is to reduce the duplication of data. So by providing data access to the different elements, the different components of the federation of EO providers, this will reduce the need to duplicate or to move data for processing and to duplicate. So, and it is based, strongly based, so in the use of cloud-based solutions and the use of APIs, standardized APIs. And another important benefit is to lower cost. Lower costs for the final user like governments, agencies to get access to these services, high added value services, and for the SMEs to entry into this market without being proprietary of constellations or satellites or ground infrastructure. So this will be an important benefit of this federation. Next, please. So what is providing Domino in this federation? What is the role of Domino in this federation? This standardized architecture will contribute to the reusability and of Earth observation assets at EU level, but also will increase the profitability of the different stakeholders, data providers, the constellation builders, integrators, SMEs, and end users. It will ensure a seamless data access across different Earth observation missions by making use of these standards and APIs to access to the data. This seamless integration will standardize the use of Earth observation, but in not only between multi-missions, but also between different verticals. So that will enable a cross-sector collaboration, but an international as well, by combining and federating missions, not only from EU, but from other national agencies or international commercial data providers. It will enable the resource pooling, and in terms of ground segment, it will streamline the multi-mission coordination between the different ground segments for the different constellations. You could see this point later on when Jeff talked about the different services regarding interoperability between ground segments and the federation of them. And very important, this concept, this federation concept, may allow the integration not only of commercial platforms, but also commercial platforms are institutional platforms or services like the Copernicus-based or other ESA platform. A use case we have been I'm providing here in the presentation are different possible benefits in terms of real applications, like a number of agencies monitoring the climate monitoring may benefit of this automation of this federation and access to different EO data from different international institutions. Please, next one. So standardization concept of Domino architecture. It is strongly linked to the concept of certification and the concept of compliance with security and compliance with regulation. And this is needed for the final market adoption of this federated idea. So there are objectives that may rely on this certification that will have benefits in terms of making use of certification concept or a stamp for EU service provided and based on this Domino standard, because it will ensure the compatibility between systems. It will increase the confidence on the investors and the users on the solutions, and it can be also a concept or a service exported to global clients outside the Domino ecosystem or the EO solution, but all over the world. And very importantly, it will support the creation of a trusted marketplace that will provide modular EO solutions, not only for the interoperability of the ground segment, but also for providing tools for the development of AI-driven services. Next, please. But which are could you move to next one, please? Which are the challenges that are faced in order to get to this interoperability, federation, standardization, this market adoption? So we can see in the next one that there are different challenges. In one aspect for the commercialization and the market adoption, and there are some existing restrictions, like the existence of legacy EO systems that need to integrate these harmonized standards into their systems in order to provide this all together to create this federation. This represents resistance from this system, but also from the large EO industry, the large EO providers, because currently they have important position in the market. So it has to be very clear that this federation constitutes a profitability increase for them and a number of new opportunities for them to adopt this federation. But also there are important regulatory and security concerns that affects directly to the data sharing, not only in terms of IPRs, access to data, but also in terms of security and defense when we consider that we are sharing data between nations or group of nations like Europe, EU, China, big global actors. So these are important challenges. The existing of EO system, legacy EO system, the regulatory and security concerns, and the resistance to adopt and integrate these standards and harmonized or certification by large EO firms. Next one, please. But in terms of SME challenge, what are we facing? For the SMEs, they have to manage a competition with the established EO players and with the current provision of services. But adopting or creating an ecosystem based on Domino concept requires of an standardization. And currently, there is an absence of this technical standard to provide EO data sharing and integration. This is a drawback for SMEs especially. But also SMEs may have to compete with established players. And in this sense, the differentiation with respect to them is essential. In which way can SMEs differentiate to these established players? By making use of high value or developing high value AI-driven services. And also to specialize in analytics or predictive analytics and to provide these services to the government or to large integrators. So specialization in AI-based maybe a differentiation that will allow SMEs to compete with established players. But this requires, again, of accessing to all the data that it is needed for the provision of these AI-driven services. So um, lowering the barriers that are related with regulatory and security aspects, and accessing to interoperable and federated ecosystem, it's very important. Is a challenge that DominoE is trying to achieve. And finally, with respect to technical challenge, there are aspects especially related with managing all this amount of data, with the data handling, and providing solutions that integrate or fuse different sources. And this increase the manage of the data volume and the interoperability issues. So these are the main challenge for the SMEs. And this is where we consider Domino is pushing hard with this federated concept based on standards. Next one, please. So, but with this new concept of Domino, the business model is evolving also for the SMEs. So next one, please. I mentioned before that there are the business model in general is moving to selling data, traditional selling data approach, to the provision of geointelligence service. So provision of analytics as a service based especially in the AI support processing. So this transition is happening now, and DominoE is supporting this by the use of facilitating the data access and the interoperability. Another movement, another evolution in the business model is also related with moving. Users are moving from acquiring raw data to using services, EO-native services in a subscription-based model. This is very linked to the kind of services that are related with the cloud services or marketplace services. But here, in terms of tools that support the creation of new AI services, and also with the geointelligence provided to the services, to the final users as well. So this is a tremendous evolution that we call moving from data to intelligence. Next one, please. Which are other model evolutions, business model evolutions? So it has to do with the lowering the barriers for SMEs to enter into the EO market. So I mentioned before, this is an opportunity for SMEs to enter into this business market without being necessarily proprietary of any infrastructure or any constellation or being data provided. And also they can develop, SMEs can develop services that are based in the concept of pay-per-use or subscriptions models in this business to business or business to government approach. In conclusion, if we go to the next one, because we are finishing in time, SMEs can now compete in the EO sector without owning their satellites or ground infrastructures by leveraging the federated multi-mission access provided by the DominoE concept. SMEs can develop vertical AI-driven services by focusing on IO-powered analytics and automation, and develop services for specific verticals like agriculture, forestry, climate and environment, or logistic and infrastructure, security and defense. But also the Domino can be used by the SMEs not only as a data source, but also as a marketplace where they can provide modular solutions for the ground segments of Earth constellation and solutions for data processing and providing subscription models to the final users about the final Earth observation services. This is an opportunity also for the SMEs to partner with system integrators. Instead of being independently in operations, they could collaborate with these companies to develop AI automation solutions, for example, for multi-mission scheduling, or offering custom analytics to clients by using the integrators, the operator integrators services. Also, SMEs can benefit from EO funding programs or other accelerated programs like the Horizon Europe funding, like Horizon Booster, or the ESA Business Incubator Centers. And also they can engage in actions promoted by the EU for developing IE services plus EO data, or even explore the program for European program for startups called Cassini. Finally, SMEs can strengthen their capability in terms of cloud on AI by investing in AI training models. By this opportunity that Domino would offer by accessing and sharing the data, they can adopt a cloud native solution that will facilitate and reduce the cost for developing new services, and they can use tools and capabilities in these platforms, like the ones that by making use of the APIs, accessing for tools and data in the DominoE. So my final takeaways is that the SMEs and startups should focus in AI-driven EO services, multi-mission and automated analytics solution for Earth observation final users, and exploit the business-to-business partnerships and the EO funding mechanisms in order to develop these services and solutions that will benefit of the standards, the federation and interoperability provided by the DominoE architecture and concept. So with this, I finish my presentation. I will be happy to answer any question that you may have.
That's great.
Okay, thank you very much, Amaya. Thanks to GMB. I think those were some interesting insights into a rapidly evolving and changing market environment. And I hope that we can seamlessly take it on from here into our discussion. But before we do so, are there any questions from our audience directly to Amaya? In case you have questions, now's the time. Doesn't look like there are questions. Then I think we continue with our little discussion on the ways, the options of entering the Domino ecosystem for small and medium enterprises. I think Maya has led the way here by saying it's a system of certification and compliance, but also of lowering the entry barriers to the market. But before we go into the discussion, let's us take a look at a short little video just to set up the framework for our discussion.
Getting to know the Domino architecture is quite good starting point to know, I would say, the domain. It gives you a framework to start. In the case of Domino, the idea is to be a little bit horizontal. That means that you are sharing some services between different constellation operators. While other systems are completely rigid and vertical, you cannot add functionalities as easily as it is done here. It can have really a profound impact on how companies collaborate together and the value that is brought in the end to end customers. One could consider that you can have several dominos providing the same equivalent services, but implementing in different ways. It could open the market to smaller constellation operators using the DominoE architecture. I think it's easy to underestimate because larger, more complex Earth observation missions have different levels of complexity, of more strict reliability requirements on them. And it would have been much more difficult for the small players to compete on that.
We started almost on blank sheet and learning about this Earth observation field. Every time we communicate with partners, we learn new things, understand what these technical terms they are speaking really mean, and if you are not afraid of learning new things and getting into unknown territory, it's worth trying.
We see that some clients around the world, many clients are kind of emancipating in the sense that they want to do things, more and more things in their countries, but they cannot always do everything themselves. So in an ideal world, there would be maybe a official Domino stamp saying that a company with its product A and B are Domino compliant. And then it's easier to tell them that, okay, this or that piece can be done in their country and that it can be easily integrated in the final system.
We are developing some ground segment for some companies like Airbus, other companies, and we can help some company to build the Domino. Tomorrow, you can have a mix of different providers will contribute to the same ground system, and it will be the choice of the decision maker, I would say, to target the good ground segment and the good components.
If you want to even extend your functionalities to other kind of missions, other kind of sensors, you need to develop. You can develop new dominos and plug them to the existing ones.
I think the target of this open architecture, I would say, is to allow different players to provide dominos, but we could have also some new space target where the customer will ask for budget constraints, and we will be able to adapt maybe by providing some more simple domino.
From the system integrator perspective, it's much easier to go pick and choose the best product for one domino and get the best of all worlds and put them together more easily. This is the growing industry, and you do not have, I would say, for various, applications, very established solutions.
All right. And now I'm happy to have here with us on the call three now familiar faces from that little video. We do have with us today Grzegorz Taberski from ITTI in Poland, which is a partner of the DominoE consortium, We also should have Stefan Dernier from Gemini in Toulouse. I don't see him on the chat. Stefan, are you here? Doesn't look like he's here, unfortunately. And then we have Daniel Novak from ADS, also in Toulouse. Those of you who've been following closely the first two sessions of our webinar should have already met him online. And he's one of the few people who've been on board of the Domino architecture from the very first beginnings of planning the predecessor of DominoE, the so-called Domino X project, to set the base for the Domino architecture. And now we together want to take a look at the business opportunities that arise from the Domino architecture. I would leave it to you, Daniel and Cesar, to just briefly reintroduce yourself before we delve in your perspectives on Domino as a business ecosystem. Maybe because I just see you here on my screen, largely, Daniel, if you could begin and introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks to you guys. Thanks for this opportunity. And indeed, I was at the first webinar and I have this opportunity to talk on this one. So about myself, as you said before, I was one of the first ones who was working on the first Domino project. That was Domino X started in 2021. And was there at the inception of it. And so as I said, I'm working at Airbus in Toulouse. And currently I'm leading your Earth observation phase A project, combining multiple types of systems, optical, radar, hyperspectral, RF, and so on, with their associated ground segments. And obviously, one important ingredient for the ground segment will be the Domino architecture with all the benefits it brings. So I still have obviously then an important stake in having the Dominoes work and succeed.
Thanks, Daniel. And then I hand over to Grzegorz, probably in Poland, and he's sort of a first-hand witness for the business opportunities for SMEs in the Domino architecture since ITTI is developing or co-developing one specific Domino. Grzegorz, please.
Okay, thank you for this introduction. I'm very glad that I could be here. It's very neat, very fine opportunity to present, I would say, what we have done within the project. So about me and the company for which I'm working, as it was mentioned, I would say before, we are the SME company. We are mostly about the software development, and we are working in the space sector for about 10 years, I would say, since the Poland joined the European Space Agency, and we are mostly working on the development projects for ground segment, for some, I would say, SST, NEOs, and all, I would say, associated things. And we have been granted the possibility to work with the big, I would say, companies with this H 2020, this Horizon project, the DominoE, and to join and to co-develop one of the modules for the Domino, which is about the scheduling and booking of the ground stations for communication between the satellite and the mission control part of the Domino. So it's nice to be here and to discuss, I would say, the further opportunities that the work that we have conducted so far within the project, what we could do next.
All right, thanks to you both. Now, before we delve into the topic, let me ask one more time if someone from Gemini is here, or otherwise, I maybe ask Maya if she's still on the call and still available to maybe also take questions during this little discussion, only if that's okay for you, Maya. Otherwise, I think we can look forward to some interesting insights from ITTI and IDS and ADS from Grzegorz and Daniel. And my first question would actually go to Grzegorz, because as you said, you are working for an SME yourself. You're working on a particular Domino, or basically you're involved in two dominoes, if I'm correct. Does the domino architecture indeed lower the entry barriers to complex Earth observation ground systems? Could you just explain how you found your way as a company into the domino architecture, and if that's true, what it promises, that it lowers the entry barriers?
I think it lowers, I would say, the entry because otherwise you will have to, I would say, grasp and understand the whole complexity of the ground segment part. And with the nominal architecture, you could only, I would say, focus on the APIs, so the programming interfaces, the exchanges with the other modules, and you have, I would say, the well-defined place from which you could start, and you could focus on what you could do best. So for instance, in my case, it was working on those on the module for the communication and booking service, and for this we could along with our partners, the French company, French research lab Onera, we could focus, I would say, on building the algorithms for selecting, I would say, when and how to communicate with between the ground station and the satellite. And otherwise we will have to, I would say, research a little bit more and not, I would say, focus on the domain of our module, but to focus on the other and try to decide what should be inside our module, what should be outside. And within with the domino architecture, we are, I would say, quite certain, because it is, I would say, well established by the big company like Airbus and by others, and we could, I would say, be certain that all of the required things from our module are there, and we could, I would say, just focus on the inside of the module and do not, I would say, care so much about the outside.
That sounds good. Daniel, you were part of the project Domino X when multiple industry players agreed on shared frameworks and interfaces for operation segments to be developed. That was what Joshua just explained, was basically your idea in the first place, or isn't that in line with what you were having in mind as a value proposition of the architecture, right?
So can you repeat the end of it, because the signal was not so good? Excuse me.
Now, I was just wondering whether what Joshua just explained was what you had in mind when you first came up with the idea of shared interfaces, shared standards.
Yes, of course. So this idea of establishing standards and sharing it across everybody this idea was brewing since quite many years. It was brewing because over different programs, systems that we built in Airbus, we saw that very often these functions that we see in ground segments are the same: mission programming, user access, booking the stations, and so on, image processing. They're all the same. But from one program to the other, we always saw that often engineering teams, they decided to do things a bit with their sauce, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad. And in the end, we realized that we had an opportunity, a window of opportunity in 21, where we could launch more, let's say, bigger project, more ambitious one, for really standardizing all the ground segment together with a bunch of other companies. And this triggered us to really get to kick the ball rolling, which is still rolling now and will be in the future. And clearly, from the outset, it was clear that the one key criterion for success was that the open nature of our results. So that's why we put things on very open permissive license and Apache license. And so, and the criterion of success that was that as many people and many companies adopt and have this shared view of the Earth observation ground segment architecture.
Thanks, Daniel. And I see that now also Stefan Darian from Capgemini has entered the call. I'll give him a couple of minutes to arrive before I ask him whether he can still join our discussion. I hope everything's okay. where he is. Josh, you mentioned that your company, ITTI, has been engaged in the space domain for 10 years now. If you would imagine you wouldn't have entered the space domain a decade ago, but were thinking about joining it, would a system architecture like the Domino architecture make your choice, or whether make your decision to enter the space domain make it a lot more easy, or what's the effect on companies like yours?
I think that it makes, I would say, a better roadmap for where you could contribute, because you could see, I would say, the very complex system, but you could see the parts that are well defined, and you could then look into them and look into the details, not, I would say, the connections between them, but into the required functionality. Like for the booking, you have, I would say, the booking algorithms. For the coverage service, you have the algorithms how particular parts of the satellite, I would say, imaginary should overlap. So we could, I would say, focus just, I would say, on the particular domain. You do not have to focus on those, I would say, connections between everything. So I think that this lowers, I would say, the barrier, because then you could look what kind of the expertise your company have, and then try to, I would say, map it on the required functionality of the particular domino. So this is, I would say, the things that will help much. And from my perspective in the ITTI company, we have not been, I would say, so much deep, I would say, into the Earth observation. We have some experience with the ground segment. We have some experience, I would say, with the other parts of the space domain, but not in particular Earth observation. And I think that it was a very good start, I would say, to work on the domino and to start, I would say, developing the module of the booking service.
That does sound reasonable. Now, Stefan, I'll take the opportunity to ask, are you here with us now? I think you're muted, Stefan, right?
Hello, Thomas. Yeah, it's fine now.
Hey, sorry. People have a chance to see you on a little video that we shared. You work for Capgemini in Toulouse, and your company does provide services that could support SMEs in the development of contributions of segments of dominoes for the Domino architecture. I'll leave it to you. Please introduce yourself and also maybe Capgemini's role within the Domino framework.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Stefan Darian. I'm an engagement manager in the space sector at Capgemini. I was leading, and I'm leading the DominoE project for Capgemini. And let me introduce what Capgemini is doing in around the space sector now. So Capgemini, in a nutshell, it is 35 years of experience in the space sector. We were involved in the DominoE ecosystem since the start in 2022, defining the architecture with other partners. Capgemini is four major areas, I would say, in the space. It is satellite navigation, telecommunication, exploration, and science, and also definitely Earth observation. So we are positioned as a developer and integrator of solution for key players in space, industrial prime contractors, new space companies, institutional clients. Okay, we have the capacity to support the clients. We do that definitely with different industrial and to support, so to develop and to integrate solutions. So this is a key point. And what we can provide definitely for Domino is a knowledge of the architecture, a knowledge of the integration into the architecture. Maybe we will go in detail after, Thomas. we can provide guidance in GenAI, in sustainability topics, also in security, in cloud. So various topics that are needed and that are important to integrate Domino. And definitely, we are glad to support partners in the entire value chain, from the ground segment, but also for data valorization, I would say, from this ground segment.
Thanks, Stefan. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that your company, Capgemini, here is in sort of an intermediate position, sort of like a middleman between enterprises developing Dominoes and the big system integrators running whole world segments and offering broad packages of services in the Earth observation market. To ask you quite provocatively, maybe, are you in favor of the Domino architecture? Because if there are no standardized interfaces and whatsoever, your position as an intermediate may become even stronger, right? How do you at Capgemini look at the Domino architecture? Is it a game changer, a door opener? What chances, what opportunities do you see in this framework of shared interfaces and standards?
So, yeah. So definitely, Domino is a modular architecture, which allow it is easy to change a component. It is easy to integrate innovative algorithm solution, technical solution. Domino also, the goal of the Domino is to reuse the technology for different system. Okay, and at Capgemini, we were part of the development of this of first Dominoes, but we also help other people, and we can do that definitely to understand the best practices and to integrate properly, I would say, the Domino in the architecture that was defined. Does it answer the question, Thomas?
In a way, it does, I think. Sure, thanks. Daniel, we did talk a lot about the lowered entry barriers, and Maya explained us very comprehensively about what this means to the whole industry that is changing at a rapid pace. If you look at the development of Dominoes, we've heard that there might be clients who want an Earth observation ground segment but want to develop some parts of them on their own. We have heard about big developments that are steered by the system integrators, and then there might also be Dominoes that are creations of companies who just sit down and think, let's develop a Domino because we see a market potential for that particular Domino. What do you, from the ABS perspective, see as the driver of Domino development? Will it be in the end you as a customer requesting for specific Domino developments, or do you see it as a bottom-up infrastructure that allows for Dominoes to be developed where people only see a future market potential? Did you get that? Because I think your video is being frozen from our end. Seems we have lost Daniel for now. I hope you haven't lost us. Then maybe I ask this question at Grzegorz or Stefan. Do you see the development of Dominoes driven by demand or more by supply, or is it both? How do you envision the Domino architecture?
Hello? Hello?
Daniel, hey, now you're back. We had lost you for a couple of seconds, I don't know.
Hello?
You hear us?
Yes. Sorry, I my connection stopped right at the end of your question. So
But you did get the question.
it was very strange. I got the question. So yes, Um, so what is in it? That's the question I understood for ADS. So from my perspective, as I said, it is very important that we agree on these interfaces for many reasons that was explained before. And as a system integrator, we are sometimes interested in, of course, developing some dominoes that we think are really stake core business for us. These may be like very advanced processing algorithms for some parts of the system, some very critical items. But what is interesting in it for us is that we can outsource some or maybe many dominoes, things that we often have been insourcing before, but now we can outsource because we see that there's so many investments around uh, private and public that many new domino providers emerge with very interesting products and services arising through dominoes, and those we can then integrate and put together a system that has a larger value than if we had done something just ourselves with our own investments. And so if there is a new domino provider with the, for example, there's two cases. Either they have some new product and service that fits into one of the dominoes, then then okay, we will be looking more easily into it. If it's something really new, and it can happen because we're always innovating and people around are innovating, it's also fine if this product or service doesn't strictly fit into a domino or something really completely new. Then we have to look into how we evolve the architecture so that we account for something that we think for the long term is interesting and new, and interesting for end customers and for everybody. So this is why setting up a technical governance will be very important. So governance of the standards, which we believe is very important for to secure, the both the adoption of the dominoes, but also this the sustainable evolution of the architecture.
Thanks, Daniel. Then maybe same question from a different angle to Grzegorz and Stefan. To what extent do you believe it makes sense for companies of whatever size to actively go into the development of dominoes now that you know there is what Amaya calls certification or a compliance system for dominoes? Do you see it as an option to develop, or companies to develop dominoes in order to seek actively for this sort of business?
I think that there are those two perspectives. From one, you could, I would say, have something which you think could fit and just, I would say, wrap it up, I would say, in the domino package. And then you could, I would say, more easily sell what you already have. And this is, I would say, the one opportunity which is easier and could be, I would say, used by many parties that already have something. But if you do not have, I would say, anything and you would like to start, I would say, from scratch, this is also the possibility. But then you have to, I would say, first, I guess, get in touch, I would say, with some integrators, with some users, etc., to assess what kind of I would say, domino is the requested one, which one I would say is the most frequently used, or which kind of those is missing. Because I would say that there could be also two ways. One is, I would say, to provide the domino which is used quite, I would say, widely and focus on some specific applications of it. So the big, I would say, integrators like Airbus, Capgemini, and others could, I would say, seek for your, I would say, solution, because your solution is best, I would say, for one type of use case or two types of use case, etc. And the other thing is, I would say, to go onto the greenfield, and I would say to start with the domino that is not already there. So if you are the first, you are the best, but you have to, I would say, start to improve, because you will not be the only one for long. So this is, I would say, my take out from this.
Thanks, Jacob. I think this is where you could come into play, Stefan, right? Because this is precisely what Capgemini also offers as a service, supporting developers in developing Domino compliant systems, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what is good with Domino architectures is that it is flexible. So flexible, I mean, because it could address large system, or it could address maybe startups. It's quite easy to learn. The Domino logic is quite easy to learn, and what you can say is some dominoes are mandatory, some dominoes could be optional for the system, but you can bring value is this optional part. And definitely, I think some companies with a strong knowledge can bring value in a domino, definitely. And we, as Capgemini, but also other, we can help them to integrate the system, to understand definitely the concept and where they can put their value. But there is a place, there is ways for people and for companies to play with that. Yeah, in a secure way, which is very, very important. Yeah. So bring your expertise and learn the architecture, and you can integrate the system. Yeah.
That does sound promising indeed. And looking at the time, I would now ask the audience one more time if there's any questions to the people on the panel from ITTI, from Capgemini, and from Airbus Defense and Space. And if there are no questions from the chat or from our visitors today, I think it's time to head back to Jean-François Vinuesa, who's actually the coordinator of the DominoE project, to give us a little overview, to assemble all the open threads, and give us a nutshell presentation on how to join the Domino ecosystem, right? And thanks to all of you three, Stefan, Daniel, and George. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Hi guys, I'm happy to come back for this third session because that was the first one. Nice to see you. Just as a reminder, if you can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay. A reminder. So, what is my job? I'm currently the project manager of DominoE, but I'm also a BIM manager for the export market in optical system. Meaning that in our division, also with Daniel, what we do is that we sell end-to-end system to governments. What is the end-to-end system? It's something where you have the you sell the let's say the ground segment. This is the part where you are going to do the operation. Is going to be on the ground. You sell also the flying segment, meaning of the satellite and the instrument that you are working on. So today we're going to show you basically what was our ideas. I will come back to some point about the strategy and how we came to Domino, and then to see, we'd like to show you how you can join the Domino ecosystem and how you can get with us on board to answer to the demand of the client. So if you could change to the next slide, please. So as Daniel was saying, what we've seen in the last years is that our client, they are taking their autonomy basically. They want more for less time and less money. They also are giving some inside their own countries, some companies that are growing, that are providing system. So often they want us to include what our company are doing into our system, and they want to benefit from new features coming from the new space, and they want basically to have something, yeah, as I was saying, cheaper and faster. And to have, when I'm talking about cheaper, is not only the capex that once they're going to buy the system, they want also to reduce the cost of operating. So to have something which is more efficient and with less operators and providing more value. So if you connect to the next, move to the next slide. So what we come out for to answer this need of the market, it was to propose a new way to build ground system, and it was to have a modular architecture. Modular meaning that you have some subsystems that are predefined with some functionalities, with some interfaces, and that each subsystem is kind of independent. You can build it, and as soon as you answer the needs, the requirement for the functionalities and from the interface, you can connect it to the other system without destroying anything. So basically, what you can do is that you can cover a wide range of use case, of system use case, because you can have an optical system, but you can add functionality from a radar system for, I don't know, for apps, from some drones, and from also commercial data image company that you can just via the system connect to it and then order your data. What is nice also with this thing is that you can address easily from one satellite to several satellites to a constellation, because basically you're just going to add some functionalities, not destroying your system. And what you will do basically is also to allow you to involve and take on board not only the usual suspect, but also newcomers that can bring some added value and that you can please your client with it. So if you can move to the next slide. So this one, I already presented it 2 weeks ago, and it's basically what are the added value. And so the most important is that in terms of value proposition for the client, you are providing something that is better, that is easier, less risky, and then also you have less cost in terms of operation, in terms of capex. From the industry point of view, what is interesting is that since you have a modular architecture, so that you have some subsystems that are let's say not pre-integrated, but pre-validated and pre-verified, it's easier to get it in the system. So you have less risk and you can reduce the margin for the risk because you are more secure integration and validation process. And also what is, when you think about this modular architecture and subsystem, you can think of product and sub-product. So basically what you can do is to have a product strategy for each subsystem, so you can rationalize your investment and having a policy, a product policy on the long term, and you can then have some maintenance and evolution contract from the client on the product, and it's going to give you a long tail of contract and of revenue over the program. So a lot of added value for this architecture. And if you can move to the next slide, because I think that we never show it actually. It was open on the web so everybody can see it, but this is basically how it looks like. So what you have, as you can see here, you have some dominoes. So this is the blue box, and here what you have is a full cycle of operation. When you start from the client that is going to enter via the UIS and going to order a picture, and then you're going to send the signal to the common ground segment, going to send it to the satellite. Satellite is taking the image, going to the ground, and to the ground is the image ground segment that is going to create your data, to process it, to correct it, and to end up with some data on your catalog. So this is how it looks like. And here, what you've seen is that we're talking about 2 satellite constellation or 8 satellite constellation. I mean, you can put even more depending on the system, and you can have some other sensors like the radars. So let's take a small, not a deep dive, but a small dive into the different dominoes or different sectors of dominoes. So if you can change to the next slide. So you have one which is really important, is when the end user is connected to the system via the user access as a service. And in this, you are basically the multi-federation user service that you are able to tackle with your issue using different kind of system, the one that you have, and perhaps other system. The nice point is that in this federation layer, you are going to manage all the user requirements, and you are going to organize different production workflows. So if you move to the next slide, this is typically what you can do. with the federation system is that the end user is accessing it, and then it can require to do one operation. It can acquire data for its own system, its historical system. It can also acquire data from emerging commercial satellite just for one point of entry. And after you can order it, and it's going to be processed, and it's going to be all this is going to be easier done because you are going to define some standardized interface that you're going to provide to the commercial provider. And easily, you will be able to access the system to order data and to get it back to your system. So if we can move to the next slide. So the second part of the architecture is a couple of dominoes that are, let's say, more sensitive, because here you are dealing with the satellite command and control. So you need to know exactly what is going to do your satellite. You need to have a know-how of the agility, of the performance, and of the orbits. So some of the domino here will likely to be kept in the integrator. It would not be some contracted because of sensitivity and confidentiality of the different industries. If you can move to the next slide. And then after when you have your order of acquisition that is up to the satellite, and then your payload detecting the image, the satellite is going to send it back to Earth. And here what you have are different dominoes that are going to produce the right image that you ask, starting for the, let's say, the primary processing service. That could be just take the image at level 0 going to level 1 or 2. And then you can have some advanced processing service and that are going to extract information from the data. This is basically one of the big points that Amaya was showing on this on the presentation, where you can have some added value working on the information rather than in the data itself. And on top of this, for the image ground segment, you have a lot of things that are going to be provided by the domino provider, like the image quality service, because basically this is going to be a service going to add to your domino of processing, because you want to be sure that you are reaching the good and important quality. What also you can have is to have some service based on the machine learning application production and quality service that kind of automated, and they're going to do it by itself. So if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, and then on top of it, you have some general dominoes that are really dealing with monitoring and data management and all access rights, and also the information or the exchange information with external data provider. That could be some local weather service or typically weather service, or something about collision service, or some orbit service. Next slide, please. So how is it working? So basically, when the integrator, so it could be whoever is the integrator, receive a request from a client, he has access to a catalog of dominoes, and he's going to choose for one mission which one to use or not. And you're going to end up with some domino left to be performed, and some that will be not selected because you don't need them. If a client doesn't want a constellation, you don't need to have some domino related to constellation. And it's only if it's only about optical data, optical satellite, you don't need to have all the radar dealing with all the domino dealing with radar data. So next slide, please. So based on this ConOps, you have selected some dominoes, and then you need to go through the industrial strategy. Is that you are going to decide which domino you are going to outsource or subcontract, and which one you're going to keep in house. And the cut of the dominoes, it can be at domino level, but it can be also at subsystem level. You can decide to subcontract almost everything, like ESA is doing for the Copernicus ground segment. Is that basically what they're doing is that the PDGS, the payload data service production, is owned by other company. So the integrator can decide to put all the processing service from the primary processing service to the advanced storage service to an external company. You can decide to have all the data management also subcontracted, also catalog subcontracted. And you can decide for some key to keep it in-house because they are crucial to your business and or to your know-how. So you're going to choose the Domino providers. Then you can move to the next slide. And what also you can do because of this architecture that is, let's say, it's cloud-based, is that you can decide to develop or to deploy on a bare metal, on the cloud of the inside of the client's location premise, on a public cloud. And because your technology is not, it's cloud agnostic, you can develop it anywhere. Next slide, please. So this is how we do the job, and basically this is a primary list of Domino where we as Airbus, when we're building our system, we are potentially looking for subcontractors and outsourcers to provide these Dominos. So this is a buy foreseen. This depends on the client, this depends on the market, but basically this is what we can a subcontract. So it's working on the force, basically the flight operation service. As I was saying, the data distribution, the processing service, and then some monitoring or data integrity or security monitoring that we can for sure subcontract. And it's a little bit like my colleague was doing, is that since you can subcontract part of the Dominos, you can focus really on your added value, on what you are good at. And the others, there are for sure companies that are better than Airbus to do the job. So let's give them the job to be done. They will do it better, in a cheaper way and a faster way, and then it will be easier after to integrate it in our system. So if you can move to the next slide. So how is it going to work? Basically, you have this Domino architecture that is already at PDR level, and that is available online, and it's open architecture. And on top of this, we are going to provide some ConOps depending of the client request and of the system you want, and some perhaps industrial strategy, saying basically what we were saying before is that this Domino is to be developed and to be integrated with this one, and also some deployments, because some clients are okay to have their system on the public cloud, and other ones they want to have everything on bare metal on the location with, let's say, air gap around. And for this, we're going to send a request for a proposal to the company that we know that can provide this kind of Dominos. So, yeah. And next slide, please. And so what we're going to build basically is some data packs. Is that you will have data packs with something that is not changed, that are the output of the DominoX public project, and that is available on the web. You have the website here, when you can find also description of the interfaces, the ICDs, some cloud guidelines, and general architecture. So everything you can download it from the website, and this will not change around time. But after, depending on the system, what we're going to do is that you can have some specification on specific requirement from the client, basically on performance and on security. So each data pack will have this own, in addition to the basic common output of DominoX, some specification depending on the client on performance and security. And we are going to make RFPs to different Domino provider, and we can have different Domino provider for this. And move to the next slide. So we understand that it's this way of doing is really a game changer. So what we are also working in the context of the DominoE project, and on the work of GMV and Amaya is doing, is to have a SWOT analysis applicable both to the integrators that are in front from the client, but also to the Domino providers, because these Domino providers, they're going to build some product, some Dominos, and they will have to have this product policy over time for the Dominos. So they need also to know there are some, and they're going to sell them to integrators. And I don't think it's easy. We have some weakness in this approach. We have some threats, but we have also some strengths. Basically, is that the big strength is that since it's the interface are predefined and standardized, it's easier to make a reuse. And also some opportunities is that you can answer some new markets and you can make it evolve. As Iti was saying, and also our colleague from CAP, is that if you need a new functionality, you can add it in the ecosystem and in a new Domino, and it will connect to the existing Domino. Next slide, please. So where do we stand? First, internally. Internally, we are currently reviewing all our programs and to push partially some dominoes into the program. So I cannot give you two details which one we are doing now, but we are putting it in our current program and future program in export, and also not in export, but also in other markets. We are working with the national space agencies, so we are closely working with the CNES in France and with the DLR in Germany because of the DominoE project where we work with ESA. We are current follow-up discussion with ESOC and with ESA, and we, as you know, we are pretty active at the European Commission in the Horizon Europe funding ground, and also in the EDF, and European Defence Fund approach. And in terms of integrators, we are, okay, all home countries, because you've seen around the table today, there are only Airbus France, but we are working with our colleague in Airbus Germany, within DominoE, but also with our colleague from England for the radar, and from colleague from Spain. So all home countries are involved in the initiative. TAS was involved with Domino X, and we are continuing discussion in the future to perhaps do something together, and also with OHB system and OHB digital connect awareness, and we would like to take them aboard the stories. In terms of subsystem providers, like you know, in the project we have GMV and we have CAP, that are big subcontractors and historical subcontractors from Airbus that are building our system. We are more than them in contact with 3 other large ones from outside the consortia, and that could be also some intermediate industries that can help SME to get into the picture. So next slide, please. And I think that's the last one. So this is to give you a picture or an overview of different kind of projects that we are running. So there was the Domino X project that is now finished. That is on the top of the slide. On the right part, you have some collaborative projects on the Horizon Europe framework. So you have DominoE for sure, that we're looking today, but you have also Meseo, that is led by GMV. And you have DominoE, that's led by us, and it's a GSTP with the European Space Agency. And also in terms of creative project, we have Spider that is currently running. It's 30, I think there is more than 30 organizations partnering. And actually Daniel is the project manager of the Spider proposal. And we have also the reference system, service system, that is the, let's say, the PDGS that can be applicable for Sentinel-1, 2, and 3, that we are running as Prime in collaboration with Verum and CS Group. And what we're also doing, our main target in our division is to work with export market, and there are going to be some RFE and RFPs in the fourth quarter of this year to from some new customers, some new opportunities, and the goal there will be to deploy partially, at least partially, the Domino architecture for these new markets. And I think that was my last slide. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Jeff, for this presentation, very dense presentation. If there are any questions, I think we are basically at the end of our session, but we will take some 5 more minutes. Anyway, so if there are some questions, please raise your hands now. Otherwise, there is plenty of different opportunities to re-inform yourself on what is going on in DominoE or with the Domino architecture. So let me basically show you the material that is out there so that you can update yourself. There is a white paper, the DominoE white paper, that assembles basically all the technical standards and interfaces that are used by the Domino architecture. You can download that white paper from the DominoE website. You find there not only the standards and the interfaces, but also a description of what exactly is a domino, also the presentation or parts of the presentation that has been shown today by Jean-François are to be found in this white paper. You also have, or you can rewatch, in case it was too dense today, you can rewatch each of the webinars also on the DominoE YouTube channels. So the session from today will be broadcasted only next week, but the other two sessions are already available. And then you can, of course, always have a look at our project website. Jean-François mentioned the DominoX resources on the DominoX website, which is still in place. In case you can also find all of this documentation available for download on the DominoE website. So there's a project output section, and then there's a media centers section where you can find particularly also the webinar presentation slides of today, but also the first two sessions. So having said that, I think we come to the end of this very webinar. I think we've learned quite a lot about not only the technical challenges and limitations, but also the opportunities that come with these challenges. We have heard from very different angles, also particularly today with having SMEs, but also representatives from Airbus, so from the perspective of the system integrators, what this new Earth observation architecture can bring to us, but also to the market in terms of business opportunities. So from my point of view, if there's no further question at this point, I would like to thank once again all the presenters of today's session, but also of the other webinars, and then particularly also to the three panelists that we have had today and that have shared their insights. I think
not much I can add. From my end, thanks to everyone who contributed to this webinar series. We hope it has some value added to those who have an interest in knowing more about the Domino architecture. And after this session today has concluded, of course, the DominoE project still remains available for questions. Just drop us a line, and we will be happy to forward to the relevant contacts within the project consortium. Maybe there's room for future endeavors, shared projects, and everything. Yeah, and I think now we conclude the session and wish you a pleasant week.